Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second edition of the MTC Timber Talk series for 2026. My name is Faizal Zulkifli from the Malaysian Timber Council, and I will be your moderator for today's session. Before we begin, just a few quick notes. Today's session will be recorded and later be uploaded into the Timber TV, which is the MTC YouTube channel. We are going to have the Q&A session later. During the talk, if you have any question for our speaker, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box on your screen. We will address them during the discussion segment later. And to get things started, feel free to say hello in the chat box and let us know where you are joining from. So the Timber Talk series was initiated as a platform to bring the industry, designers and thinkers together, not just to showcase timber, but to unravel how it is evolving from the technologies and materials innovation to contemporary design thinking and architectural application. This series aimed to spark deeper conversation on how timber can remain relevant, competitive and forward-looking in today's built environment. More importantly, it is about bridging ideas with practices, understanding not only what is possible with timbers, but also what is practical, scalable, and meaningful in real-world application. Today's session, interestingly, Eco-Chic Interiors, Timbers in Modern Living, continue that conversation by focusing on how timber is shaping the interior spaces where aesthetic, sustainability, and functionality intersect. But beyond the inspiration, we will also be exploring the realities behind this idea on how timber performs, where it adds values, and where challenges still exist. And of course, we are honored to have with us two distinguished speakers who bring complementary perspective to this discussion. First, we have Joshua Tai, Creative and Project Director of Cornerwork Studio. From his portfolio, we see a strong emphasis on crafting interiors that balance modern contemporary design with warmth and material richness. His project, from commercial spaces to residential interiors, demonstrate how timber is used not just as a finish, but as a key element in shaping the atmosphere, functionality, and user experience. His work also reflects a sensitivity towards form, detailing, and how timber can soften and humanize modern spaces. Hi, Joshua. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for inviting.
And of course, joining Joshua is Mustasha Musa, Head of Design and Planning at Boustead Properties. Her presentation takes a broader and more conceptual approach, framing timber with the idea of eco-chic, where design goes beyond aesthetic to reflect values, identity, and lifestyle. She will highlight to us how timber has evolved across different design areas and how today's users are increasingly seeking material that feel authentic, meaningful, and connected to nature. At the same time, her perspective also raised a very important consideration around accessibility, market expectations, and balance between sustainability and practicality. Hi, Mustasha. It was a great pleasure to meet you again.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Together, both of our speakers today will be offering us a valuable dialogue on grounded in both design execution and strategic thinking, allowing us to be better understand on how the timber is used, but why it matters in today's design context. Without further ado, let us begin. Joshua, perhaps you can start with you. Could you share a little bit about yourself and what you do together with the thinking behind your design approach and how timber plays an important role in your project? Joshua.
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Joshua. So I'm going to show you my past projects. All right. So this was one of my first projects that I've done. So I used to work for previous companies for like 3 years. Then after 3 years, I started to come up and started doing my own interior design studio. So the first project I got done was this Victor Tech. It was a office. No, it was a factory from China and just opening a branch in Penang. And so for this, they wanted a more of a modern, yet they wanted a bit of warmth to make the space much more comfortable for all the workers to feel. So yeah, so for this project, I didn't really add too much of wood, but only like, as you can see, I just do it for the floors and just for the tables only. So all those like really small areas where I do it just for the wood. And I think just this small area already can just make the whole space much more comfortable already. So it's just a really simple design of an office. And yeah, so the next one I did was just an interior design consultation for Proton Imas. So this was the first Proton Imas that launched in Penang. So I was really glad that I was able to do this. And the whole concept of this was the same as well. Like they want some warmth, and this time I use a much more lighter tone because to make it more like Apple kind, Apple, but they always use the lighter wooden tone.
Yes.
So that was the idea of that.
This one in Penang, is it?
Yep, this one's in Penang, Jelutong area.
Jelutong.
Yep. So it's just the facade of it, just a quick 3D. Hey, why is it going back? And this was the second branch, also at Penang at Butterworth. So the idea was all the same, but just different location only.
I see. The project has commenced, the project has started, or?
The project's actually finished already.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's been finished 2025 December.
2025. I see.
Or was it 2025? I can't remember.
All right.
But yeah, so it was just a project, really simple design all of it, all the way. And this was a interior design and renovation. So it's design and built for this one. Also at Penang as well. So this client, she wanted a more grayish tone for the overall house.
I see.
Yeah, so even though she wanted gray, she also said she wanted some comfort and warmth. So for this one, I just added on towards for the wall paneling, just like one area only at the living room, because that's the area that most of the people will be at most of the time for our family get together. Yeah. And this, yeah, very simple. And this one is for two of their kids. So this one is, the first one is obviously it's more like a Muji Scandinavian already. And then the other kid wanted more darker tone already. So yeah, all uses wood. And this is the master bedroom. Same thing as well. I just use wood as more like the highlight, not really more like the dominant thing. Like this one on top of the bed head, just like a top shelf, that's it. And for the wardrobe as well. Yeah. Okay, and this one, the Kyokusen, the furniture. So it was a collaboration between designers and the
Manufacturer.
and the manufacturer, yes. And thanks to MTC that they give us the opportunity that we can come together and to cooperate together. So this was one of the first design. And the idea of this product, of this furniture, is actually when I was observing my lecturer back in uni, and it's just really also cluster, like he would just throw a lot of stuff here and there. So I was like, what if the chair can also store some stuff inside, so at least it'll be less cluster, but at the same time, it has to look good. So that's why I designed the chair like a wavy bottom legs, so that it acts like the mini storage to put like books here and there. It's really simple. So the same thing, the highlight is actually the legs, not really the body of the furniture. Yeah, so it's the same thing as well for the side coffee table as well.
What wood are you using for this project?
Okay, so this is not solid. It's not pure solid wood. It's engineered wood.
Engineered wood.
It's
I
a more
see.
engineered wood, and
I
then they
see.
just stick it all together.
I see.
Like that's why you can see like there's like blocks in between.
Yeah.
Like not really like the whole piece is in the same color.
Yeah.
Because it's like blocks together, compress it, glue it together.
I see.
Yeah, because one thing that I was trying to do was I tried to bend the wood. So we can't really bend the wood. So thanks to my manufacturer, Taru, he was like, no, why not? We just cut it into blocks and then we just stick it to get that shape as well.
Yeah.
Since we can't bend it. And this one, a second one also, partnership with Wood Story. And thanks to MTC for this opportunity also to collaborate with them. So this design is actually when I was traveling in China, and I was looking at all those shops, and I saw like they had this Chinese character A8 everywhere, Chinese character A8. So I was like, why not this character 8? I feel it's very nice. So I was like, why not use that character 8 and then make it into a furniture, like again to showcase the design of the Chinese character and the wood as well. Yeah. So it's a more simplified, couldn't really bend it as well. So we make it more straight, but just bend it just the angle, just like that. Yeah. Okay. And this was just a concept idea, just doing my free times. And it was just a fun project. And so this was when I was in Japan, and then I was in Shiga Prefecture, so it's a very kampong area in Japan, and there's really nice mountains views and the seas here and there. Then I was like, wouldn't it be nice to have a cafe there to really sit down, to relax, to see the environment while enjoying in a cafe. So, and the first thing I thought about was like, what links together with cafe? So the first thing I thought was a book. So when I look at the book, just put it down like that, and then all the pages, so the pages becomes the glass wall.
I see.
Yeah, so it becomes the glass wall, and then the shape of the book, the edges and everything. So just use from a simple book and then just design something like that. So it's just a really fun project for this. And all the interior as well, all I try to design all from scratch as well. Not just taking from others people, but to make my own furniture as well for this. And yes, thank you. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Joshua, for that interesting sharing. I think what stood out clearly from your experience sharing is how timber is not just treated as a material, but as a key design element that shapes the overall experience of spaces, bringing warmth, texture, and sense of human connection into modern interior. Your projects, I think, highlight the most is how thoughtful detailing and material choices, which can elevate everyday's environment, like the interior spaces, to something more refined and intentional. I think at the same time, it gives us a glimpse of how contemporary design is evolving, where aesthetic and functionality are, closely intertwined, and where material plays a central role in defining how spaces are perceived and used. Building on the perspective momentum, we will now move into the second conversation we have for today, looking at timber and not just from a project level, but from a more strategic and conceptual standpoint. Mustasha, perhaps you can share with us a little bit about yourself and your perspective on how timber fits into today's idea of eco-chic living and how it's shaping the way we think about our modern interiors.
Yeah.
Mustasha.
Okay, thank you so much, Jai. I think first and foremost, when I was given the topic to talk about eco-chic, in my head, it was very blatant. It was like generic, firstly. And how do I explain eco-chic interiors, especially when using timber in the modern living? So I think in this case, I would like to show you in a different perspective, me, Mustasha, as the person, the architect, and also the designer, to basically unravel what this meaning is. So we have a look at like the meaning of eco-chic. First and foremost, what is eco-chic? And then when we go back to the word eco, it comes from the Greek word oikos. Oikos means household and also habitat. But in this scenario now today, we know eco comes from ecological, environmental, and earth-friendly. And at the same time, what do I, as an architect and a designer, see what eco really means? In this case and in this context, I'm putting forth the idea of responsibility. When you use a certain kind of materials like timber, for example, you have to be responsible on how you use it. And when you put chic, what does it mean? It means fashionable, it means stylish. At the same time, it means effortless grace. And with that, in my context, I would put it as desire. And desire is very important because, again, what happened in today's day, we can be anything that we want, how we want to be. And it's basically you're ever willing to learn what you want to be. I know it's a bit deep, but the thing is, it's how it is now today. So we can't think of ways how we are used to. So you can't do things business as usual. So I would say in today's day, we don't really design spaces anymore. We design value, and that value is very, very important. Going back, so I'm just going to be giving you a bit of history on where we came from and how we are perceiving design. We go back into the 1920s. If you see, the look of the 1920s is very elaborated, ornamented, a lot of patterns, heavy drapery. More is more. So the more you show, the more you are. So when you turn into the 1930s and 40s, I think things starts to diminish gradually. There is still the trade-off like that old elaborate feeling, but it's more simplified. And if you move towards the 1950s and 60s, you can see it was the mid-century modern feel. The reason why it's done this way, because the generation was at post-war boom. So when it's post-war boom, people would want to stay at home more, be with their family, and they would prefer spaces that are even more warm. So timber was widely used in this. In the 1920s, timber was widely used as well, heavily, because of the carving and whatnot. And then it slowed down, and then it dipped to be a bit more quiet. Then this generation, 50s, 60s, it starts with the warmth of timber back again. And then again, it's always like an alternating thing, where in the 1970s and 80s, I don't want to do anything with timber. It has lost its soul. I want to do something with colors. So the expression of colors in the 1980s, the disco, that kind of quirk and also eclectic mix have given us this kind of color in our lives. But when you reach to the 1990s, again, it dips down to be a bit more calm, a bit more minimal. This is where there's lots of Japanese influence as well, where we want everything minimal and quiet. And when it's minimal and quiet as well, I think in the Malaysian context, we also dive down into the Balinese concept, more serene, more calm, bit more spiritual, quiet. Then, the millennia year happened in the 2000s, and that's when the internet was heavily introduced. IKEA came about, and IKEA mass-produced a lot of tasteful so-called furniture. But then again, it's making it affordable and accessible to people. So people who want to be in trend at that time, IKEA is the thing. So 2010s is where social media made an introduction, and this is where you would see Pinterest-worthy spaces. Pinterest-worthy spaces yes, it can be nice, but if it's not curated well, it seemed to be just on the surface. A lot of people would come to you and say like, okay, I want this one because this is from my Pinterest board, but not essentially understanding the real design fundamentals of how design will work. So that's 2010. And then COVID happened. So in the 2020s, a lot of people stayed cooped in their houses. And that's when we realized, hey, my house is not that great. I don't have enough ventilation. I don't have natural daylight. I want more trees. I want to farm, do this urban farming in my house. Even if it's an apartment, I can just do hydroponic, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of introduction of biophilic design. That's called biophilic.
Biophilic design.
So this is where a lot of like indoor, outdoor come about. And until today, 2026, we realize that, there's lots of all this new way of wellness being instilled in the spaces. So what I did over here is basically mapped out a timeline for us to understand a bit more, because I've always been an advocate to look at how timber is being used. So I map it parallel in a way that during this time, there's an evolution, not just with the spaces, but with the use of timber. If you see 1900s and 1920s, it was during the craft ornament status generation.
Yeah.
More is more. I have a lot of karawang and I have a lot of ornaments that's like, oh, I'm rich. It's all about status. And it feels almost like everything's just a work of art.
Yeah.
And timber is seen as craft and it's heavily used. So if you see the 3-5 dots over there, it's heavily used as, the widely used material. In the 1920s and 40s, we look timber as being industrialized. This is where a lot of people think like, actually luxury does not mean just more is more. Maybe this is where we should actually be a bit more practical, be a bit more functional, and, start doing things that is a bit more modular. And then you save costs and also you have efficiency in it. So in the 1950s and 60s, like I said, it's post-war boom, and timber is widely used because people feel that it's warm, it's natural, and it's a good way of like, feeling cozy in the space. So moving to 1970s, 80s, you see timber, like I said, lost its soul because plastic is being introduced, aluminum is being introduced, a lot of new materials have been introduced. So people are more hyped with this new type of material. And then 1990s, people realized like, quiet luxury. Maybe I would use timber as, silence, as me being, living the material in its own pure form. 2000s, because of technology, we have a lot of fake wood looking tile, for example. You have your tile looking like timber. You have your wallpaper looking like timber, but it's just becoming a surface. So do we really want that? So in 2010, we still continue that because we know that it's Instagram, Pinterest aesthetics that we're looking at. So it's just to be seen, not to be felt. And people don't know whether it's the right thing or not. As long as it looks like how it looks, they're fine. And as long as they feel like, sometimes it's like fake it till you make it. This is one thing. Yeah, one thing that I think social media has brought a lot of good things, but also a lot of deceit. That's when 2020 people are a bit more clever. They understand and they want meaning in their lives. Therefore, timber can bring a lot of meaning, but they realize the scarcity of the use of material has brought this material to be expensive. It's a rarity. So this is where we are now. And when you put that together, is a dip of alternating quiet, loud, quiet, loud, quiet, loud. And if you look in the 1920s, it was ornate to reduce, to warm, to disrupted, to the purity, affordability, curated, and meaningful. And you see all these spaces evolved. And when this space evolved, it's also with people. People evolve through time. So we see this, and it's also something that we can actually forecast or predict on what's next in the future. So what are we now? So we are craving realness with whatever that's going on in the world today. We are craving something that's real, something that's honest and frank. But the problem is we also want it sustainable, but sustainable is not cheap. So, we're losing a lot of artisans, and we're losing a lot of makers, and we have fewer makers and more machines. And then that human touch is being lost. So that's why it's seen as a luxury material. And the fusion of identity is also what's very important, because we choose what we want to preserve. This is just to share some of the works that I've done in the past. I've worked on timber quite a bit. This one is with the Timber 4.0 program with Malaysian Timber Council. And I realized there's a lot of challenges that were faced during that time. And I realized, I appreciate more timber because of that. This is an example of a cafe that I've designed with a Japanese franchisee, barista at Hokkaido Coffee, together with a lifestyle store, Momaku. And we use a lot of timber just to bring that warmth and to bring that chicness of look into the space. So as you can see, even the furniture uses a lot of timber elements. And what I can also show is essentially how we also use recyclable timber. This one is a reclaimed timber from railway slippers that I use for the designs of the shelf.
It's very raw timber.
It's very raw, and we didn't even cure it or have a protection on it, but we wanted the look to be completely imperfect to give that bit of character to the space. This is another project that is heavily used timber all around it. This is Inai in Plaza Damas. And I love Tanggam a lot. And I like to maybe put some different touch to it in a modern way. So I use a lot of timber dowels to have it as a hanging rail for the batiks for this particular boutique. A lot of veneer timber that's being used as well. And sharing that, I think we also need to know, where do we go from here? I think I love timber again. Without a doubt. But I think education and awareness is so important. I think to advocate the use of timber, the value must be taught. Collaboration is important. That's why I'm happy that MTC is doing this. And also, the program that you guys had is very, very beneficial. And I think it will evolve and improve throughout. When you bring together the right minds to work on it, like with designers, architects, artisans, makers, marketeers, whoever, I think that would bring a good way of, tapping into that awareness. Sorry. And now we see timber as a rarity. It's the most expensive material that people would complain on it or either love it. But it's like a collector's item as well. You buy less because it's expensive, but you can keep it forever for generations. So with that, I think, I will basically end this with my video showcasing the work that I did with timber. Thank you.
Sure. All right, thank you, Mustasha, for a very insightful presentation. I think what you have brought into the discussions goes beyond the design. It really challenges us to think about the value behind the space we created and live in. The idea of timber is not just a material, but also something tied to identity, meanings, and sustainability as deeper dimension on how we understand the modern interiors. Thanks also for the history lesson of the design just now. At the same time, your insight on balancing aspiration with real world consideration gives us a more grounded perspective on where the industry is heading. With those perspectives on both Joshua and Mustasha, we will now open the floor for the Q&A session. For those who are joining us via Zoom, you are welcome to submit your question through the Q&A section. We will try to address as many as time permits. Feel free to share your thoughts or raise any question you may have. We actually have a few questions I'm going to address in this session. I wanted to give a priority to those people who asked the question in the Q&A lah. So the question one, you guys ready? Often the timber concept get compromised in execution, and where do you usually have to push back on those ideas? But I remember that when you mentioned just now, when you try to execute your project during our collaboration with MTC during the Timber DIP, you wanted to use timber but there's a lot of challenges. You mind to share with us some of those challenges using timber that you have to push back because the difficulties or the challenge using the timber itself?
Well, the challenge, because it was quite hard to execute a lot of the areas that we want to push with the makers. But also, I think limitation in handcraft is very different than machine.
Yeah.
Machine, you can CNC, you can do any kind of shape. But with craft, it's a bit different because when you work with your hands, you get a different kind of approach altogether. And my challenge in particular, when I was working with the furniture, for example, a lot of the makers were like, oh, ini susah lah, macam mana nak buat, like, all the joints.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I'm gonna advocate on this. I love tanggap.
Yes,
Because it's the only thing that we have in our heritage that is not really explored. We have the Japanese kigumi, for example, that's done and widely known. Where is ours? We have. So I was really pushing into like having like notches without nails onto the furniture, and that's one of the challenges that we had because obviously, how do you do a curve and also how do you do slots with a curve? So there's a lot of back and forth. And as much as you as a designer or an architect do not want to compromise the design, but you have to have that balance. And that balance is important to understand their limitation so that you can work hand in hand together with your dream or your vision. So I guess when you say compromise, it's how you handle it. It's how you maneuver around it. Not so much of like, oh, I want to cut costs. I want to design this like this, but I want it cheap. Or it's, you need two to tango. So that's my take on it.
All right. Because I also remember when us as an MTC, we try to do when we do a lot of exhibition where our designers try to design our booth with involve a lot of timber. We want to have the design to be a curvature style.
Yeah.
And we have to work with different type of materials to make sure that the curve really works in the real life. It looks good on paper when we designed it.
Correct.
But when we try to execute, we have to use different material, different method of using to add on to your curvature you mentioned just now, right? We experienced that. How about you, Joshua? Have you during your past project, maybe timbers, while using a timber, there's some feedback that you overcome, or what are the challenge?
I think for the Timber 3.0,
Yes.
when I was trying to do that part of the curve of the leg using real wood to bend it. So yeah, thank God I had Taru. He was like, why not just use engineered wood, stick it all together, and then we can, just select over it to get the color, whatever color tone that we want. Because, there are a bit of cuts here
Yeah.
and there, but sometimes you just gotta compromise it a bit
Correct.
for here and there.
Help us understand for the audience out there. You mentioned Taru just now. It's the manufacturer that you
Yes,
work
Taru
with
is
during the
Yes.
project.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay, just now from your presentation, you also mentioned about the simulated finish, timber imitations.
Yeah.
Someone asked about that. As a designer, where do you personally draw the line between authentic timber expression and simulated finishes, especially when client cannot visually tell the differences? Where when doing design, this one has to be a real timber, this one has to be simulated. How do you
Okay.
go about your?
Well, my formula is obviously, I think when you look at the, I wouldn't want to say imitation fake timber, but there are at some point in the project where you want a certain kind of timber finish, but you can't afford that finish.
Right.
So my formula is always like, the further it is, you can use imitation
Right.
kind of timber because you don't feel it.
Yes.
It's not tangible, but anything that's closer to you, like
With, you touch
your
the
touch and
material.
feel, use it.
Just the real timber.
So that you create the balance of
Correct.
the different types of
Different types.
material. Yeah.
How about you, Joshua? For your past project, do you balance between the let's call it imitation timber. I'm not sure whether there's a right term for it, and then the real timber itself.
I feel imitation timber is actually quite nice as well. Because of all the laminates and the flooring, I think they've done a really good job to get the essence of it.
In the
Really
right,
nice, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels, but us obviously as designers, we know, okay,
We know, but because at the end of the day, clients, all they want to know is budget.
Correct.
How much y'all can cut, how much y'all can
Yes.
save, honestly speaking. And I always try to tell them, like, hey, you all can cut here and there, but at least get one piece of furniture. It can be a chair or a coffee table and TV console, a really nice, full solid wood designed by a great designer.
Correct.
Get that one. Use all the money on that is good enough.
Correct.
Because I feel like wardrobe, kitchen cabinet, can just use normal chipboard and just laminate over it. And I think it's much more better. Like get a really one-piece designer piece by a great craftsmanship person as well.
Correct. All right. We're gonna address another question about to add on to what you mentioned just now. For your experience, does people generally asking for timbers or sustainability, or is it something that the industry is actively trying to shape and educating them into? Because we talk about timber as a sustainable material, being in the real world in design. Does people really goes asking for timber because of sustainability? From your experience, maybe Joshua, you want to go?
Actually, so far nobody has asked me.
Because being in Malaysia, we always like you mentioned just now, we always are financial
very
conscious, very cost conscious, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
In your project, you don't really have.
We don't bring it up, but if people do bring it up, we'll tell them and educate them about it. Then the most important question, is it more expensive? And then I'll be like, yes, it is more expensive. Because we are thinking about, it's all those eco wood to make it recyclable and whatnot. Make it from an old wood become a new wood, that go all through the treatment, all these things. Then it's gonna add on to the cost, which people don't really know or see about this. So I'll tell them very bluntly, yes, it is going to be expensive. Then the moment I said that, they're like, oh, it's okay. We just go back to laminate. It's good enough.
Right.
Always like that. It's always like that.
How about you, Mustasha? Do you think people genuinely ask for sustainable timber?
People do. I think I don't know. I'm a complete opposite. I think sometimes people come to me and say like, oh, I want to do things with timber. Yes, you can, but obviously cost is an issue. But the thing is, for me, it's a non-issue because you know why? I think there's always ways to create the mix of tangible and intangible. Some places you can use wood, some places you can use laminate. It's a matter of mitigating the cost and the budget of the client. Yeah.
That's it. All right. Just now, from your slide as well, Mustasha, there is a series of era where some trends happening. Talking about the Eco-Chic timber itself, whether is it genuinely timeless, those designs, or are we just seeing a trend cycle that may age quickly, like industrial or Scandinavian phase? I think the question is also we need to discuss that as well. The Scandinavian phase at certain era, now we are still looking at it. Is it a timeline wise, or somewhere in the future we're gonna revisit the phase of Scandinavian
Yeah.
industrial, this
Yeah.
kind of thing? So
I
what
think
are your take
it's
on this?
my take on it when, like I said, when I map it out, you can somewhat see the same cycle, but new buzzwords.
Correct. I see.
Like now it's maybe eco-chic,
Yes.
and then warm minimal,
Yeah.
and then like all these buzzwords. But at the end of the day, it's a cycle. I think when you don't have material, a lot of that material, then you miss it.
Correct.
So you want to have it.
Correct.
So that thing becomes precious. So to me, I think it's a cycle. I think, now with Pinterest, with social media, you have a lot of all these influences on how the design shape you as a person. And I think, like I said in my beginning, when I start with my presentation, anyone can be anything that they want
Correct.
if they want to.
Right.
So
But trend doesn't matter in the
yeah,
sense.
so trend doesn't matter in a sense. It's what you want to create, that
agree. I
legacy
agree.
and
Right.
that timelessness. Yeah.
How about you, Joshua? When you design, do you follow the current trend, or you go with the client based on project wise, or how?
For me, I always tell the client, some of them do ask me like, oh, I want something that's gonna be trendy and last
Trendy.
in the future. Then I'll
Correct.
be like, at the end of the day, what do you really like? Are you following just because of trend? Because if you follow a trend and you don't really like the design, at the end of the day, now what's the point?
Correct.
So I always tell them, no, just go what you like. So that's all it matters, because you're the one living in that house.
Yeah,
No,
correct.
nobody else is gonna live in that house.
Correct,
Maybe guests, maybe family come
Correct,
over,
correct.
but at the end, is you in that house. When people come, oh, this is by Joshua. He liked this kind of style. This is his house. People can know. So I always tell them, just go what you like.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a question about sustainability as well. I wanted to address it here. We often position timber as sustainable, but if we factor in treatment, maintenance, replacement cycle, and sometimes importation, have we fully accounted for its true life cycle impact? I know Joshua's client probably go for the a different way.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the client who wanted to go for the timbers as a sustainable material, but we consider in the fact that they have to be maintenance, there's a life cycle to it. Is it economically viable, or maybe, the alternative material like concrete, steel, plastic, or you mentioned earlier, will be more in the long term basis.
Do you
Ah,
want me
Mustasha?
to? Okay. I think my view on this is just as with any kind of material, I think the valuable it gets, the more maintenance you have to put into. Yes, cost consideration into treatment, into how it's being imported and how it's being, the toxicity of like this materials that is being used to protect the timber is something that I think we ourselves have not really reached that level of audit
Correct.
to understand it in the full cycle.
I agree.
But what's good about a timber is that it's a natural material.
Correct.
And humans are very susceptible to nature.
Right.
And we live healthily with natural materials than plastic or
Correct.
than aluminum or than these
It's
other
true.
materials. So in that sense, I think it will bring more wellness into how you live, because to me, I believe in if you have a good space, you can be healthy with that space, because the space somewhat dictate behaviors of people. When you go to a hotel, you behave differently. When you go to a hospital, you behave differently. So that's giving you the analogy of like how we work in an environment. So that's my take on that.
How about you, Joshua?
think for me, when you really think about whole cycle, especially for importation,
Correct.
let's say we get a wood all the way from South Africa for a
Correct.
piece of wood, your carbon footprint increases.
Mm.
So is it worth it at
Correct.
the end of the day?
Correct.
So I don't think so.
Uh,
So maybe we can, you know, reduce it, maybe use more like local wood.
Local wood,
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
local
Focus
timber.
everything on
All right.
local wood, local designer, local craftsmanship to help, create something special.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, there's also a question about timber grain, which is quite interesting, I find. What extent do you intentionally control timber grain direction in your space? Does it play a role in guiding movement, visual flow, or spatial perception? Because some of the timber with the grain are like kembang semangkut, the grain is quite intricate. And
Yeah.
then do you take as consideration during the design using the certain material that you want to highlight the timber grain, or does it play an important role in your design? Maybe Mustasha?
Definitely. I think grains are beautiful. It depends on the space that you want to create. I think now the very famous grain that we have is the burl, where it has
Correct.
like that little circles, and people use that because it has that quirky patterns on it. If you want to have your space a bit more eclectic, you use that kind of grain. But if you want something that's a bit more subtle, you use a grain that's not so heavy.
Correct.
So I think the idea of using grain is something that it's like how you intend to have your space.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joshua, do you
Yeah,
think the grain?
I agree with her. Like grain is very important.
Correct.
Like what she said, it's like you want something more soothing, comfortable, use less of that
Yeah.
quirky grains, use more simple. You want to make it more stand out, then use something more special, like of the grain.
Correct. All right. There's another questions about smaller apartments. Okay. For those urbanists in smaller apartments, especially us in KL, what are the best ways to incorporate timber concrete to create sense of luxury without making without making the space feel cramped?
Yeah.
Given the fact that the developers in Malaysia, especially in KL area, giving the space for users to have a very small space, but when we wanted to use timber, what is the sense your rule of thumb to creating the space using timber without making the timber really making the face feel cramped lah? This is the question lah.
I would say I think the formula is to look at space visually. You can basically create an optic illusion on the space. For example, if you want to use timber, but you don't want it to look so cramped, you can use like really light wood materials, like the American white oak. That's one. You don't want it to look heavy and you have a small apartment. If you use like dark timber, maybe on the linings of the arch of your passageway, for example, or how do you design your door, for example, to give that luxury look with dark timber, and that could work. Yeah.
I see. How about you in designing the space?
I think for me, I like, because I'm actually a product designer doing interior. So I actually prefer using wood, but I don't want the carpenters to make all those furnitures for me. I want to buy like designer piece wood one.
I see.
So it don't need to be a lot. You can just buy one nice TV console, put over there. Then the rest statement piece of that wood, it really can bring out the whole space. Or you just buy a very nice long piece.
Correct.
Not long piece, but maybe a 5 foot, 6 foot dining table with a beautiful leg. Put it there. It's really good enough.
Right.
And then carpentry, you can just do those. Carpentry, I feel, is only just for like kitchen cabinets and wardrobes. I think this two is more than enough.
Correct.
And then the rest, just buy. That's my take. Because I just like more like designer piece, statement one. Yeah, I think that's good enough. And it can last you for a lifetime, those like statement piece.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. We also have a question from the chat box. Earlier we addressed from the Q&A. We also have a question from the chat box. How can cultural motif heritage be interpreted in the modern living, in furniture in this era? Is it a challenge for consumer to accept? I know Joshua for a fact designs your chairs with a cultural motif to it, right? So is it a challenge for people to accept the cultural motif? Is it too significant to certain group of people? Or what do you find? How do you find?
Okay, so I'm Chinese. But I'm quite open to different
Correct.
culture. I don't
Correct.
mind. I don't mind to explore. I respect each culture and
Mm.
everything. And so like the number 8 one,
Correct.
the Chinese one. So one of the wood story told me that, oh, we actually sold it off to a Malay client and
Oh, I
an Indian
see.
client. So I was like, okay, that's good.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
The wood story is actually the manufacturer in this case,
yeah, the
lah.
manufacturer, yeah.
Manufacturer.
So they sold a few pieces to like Malays and like Indians. So I was like, like as long as they like it at the end of the day.
How about you, Mustasha? Cultural perspective in this design model. Do you really like to interpret, or you find it a bit challenging for people to accept the cultural motif? Because from your slide just now, historical lesson just now,
Mhm.
back in those days, the more the better, right? So it's a cultural concept of the carving and those kind. But if we try to interpret the more to the modern design that we are
Mhm.
doing
Mhm.
on today's design,
Mhm.
will be a challenge for people to perceive.
Well, it depends. I'm a Malay.
Yes.
So it's a very different take. Because I think in our culture we have a lot of traditional wooden
Correct.
motifs and wooden element. And I think it's a very distinct difference between that kampung, ukiran kampung,
Yes.
and also like what it is now. People are
Right.
very into kufi, those
Coffee.
carvings, Arabic,
Ah,
Quranic verses
yeah,
in
yeah.
Kufi, very modern. So it's somewhat how you interpret this in the modern world today, like what's relevant. I think it can still be adopted in design, definitely. But the sentiment would have to be reinterpreted, revived to this day and age.
Correct. Someone asking, I'm going back and forth with
Yeah.
about the sustainability, and someone asked about what are the challenge and perception using recycled material, like scrap wood, to make a value furniture. Both of you are furniture design. What have you worked with the recycled material per se, or what are the challenge when using this material? Maybe Mustasha, you had something in mind?
Because it's very prevalent in our society.
Correct.
Recyclable materials, boleh, you can
Right.
use it, but the spirits that comes with it is something that I think people in our society are like, boleh ke pakai this like old reclaimed wood? Like,
Correct.
is there a history behind it? Did
Correct.
someone die or some
I didn't know about this.
But yeah, but having said that, I
Yeah.
think the younger generation see it differently.
Correct.
They see a lot more of this change and they want all this vintage looking
Yeah.
Correct.
stuff to be recycled. And there's such thing as upcycling furniture, for
Correct.
example. They take old furniture, they revive it back again to make it look good. And they live with the spirits in but maybe
Yeah.
our parents' generation
Correct.
see it as like, oh no, don't bring antique in the house.
Correct.
So that's one of the challenges that I
Correct.
think we face in that sense.
I don't know about this. Seriously, everything.
The narrative is a cultural-based narrative that using recycled wood, old woods may be bringing something else inside the spaces. Yeah.
Like, that's it.
How about you, Joshua? Do you work with recycled materials, per se, like used woods or something, or do you find it a bit narrative of people saying using the recycled wood will be something that they
It's
are
a
not looking for?
stigma.
It's a
It's a
stigma. That's the
stigma.
word I was
Yeah.
thinking about. How about this?
I did use it before back in uni.
Uh-huh.
I studied in Japan
Mm.
and we used recycled wood. So we just in that kind of my uni project, we're just trying to give a new life to the product.
Yeah.
So we didn't think about all those like spiritual things.
Yeah.
All we think is about,
Correct.
is it not that damaged enough
Correct.
that you can still use it?
Yeah.
If it is too damaged, you'd be like, okay, if you were to really repurpose it, the time and effort needed,
Yeah.
it's just not worth it already.
Yeah.
So just gotta make sure you find not so damaged wood and you can still
Right.
repurpose it and do a new
It's cultural as well. I think in Japan, it's always breathing new life into
Yeah,
things.
Correct.
yeah, exactly. So
The crack.
Yeah.
You do it with the gold.
yeah,
Correct.
a
Yeah.
plate,
preserve
you
that.
purposely break it
Yeah.
and then
Right.
put the
Yeah.
grow new life.
Yeah. So
Difference,
All right. Someone asking about the design lighting. How do you design lighting, natural or artificial, to enhance timber texture without exaggerating imperfection like joint, grain, inconsistency, and surface unevenness? The design lighting is part of your design philosophy. Do you design?
yeah, I think
You incorporate more natural or more artificial on how you wanted to show the grain. I remember from one of your slides, the bare wood or the shelf, right? There's also lighting in there.
Yeah,
How do you balance that?
when I work on a design, it has to be holistic,
Correct.
whether it's lighting to the surface material or whether it's natural daylight that's being used for the space. So in this sense, you always have to test it out, like what temperature, how is it lighting your surface of the timber. That plays an important role. Sometimes you have to. It's like trial and error. It's yeah.
You have to try that.
It's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Joshua? I see your Proton showroom project, the lighting wise, how do you manage those, incorporate those design lighting to showcase some of your
Okay, to be honest, that Proton lighting, right? We're trying to cut costs. Right?
Again, the cost conscious
Very honest,
perspective.
very honest. At first, we were planning to use eyeball light. Very
Okay.
nice, my eyeball.
Correct.
Because of the nice shape.
Yes, yeah.
Then the client was like, it's a bit too expensive. It's like 100
Correct.
ringgit for one eyeball. So it's like, why not just use downlight LED?
Got it.
So it saves so much already.
But those showrooms are usually using a lot of glasses, natural lightings as well. That's part
Yeah.
of your design elements as well, right? When you
Yeah, for
incorporate
that
that.
Proton, just nice. The place that they rented have a lot of natural lighting inside already. So downlight is just, I think it's just good enough already.
Correct.
Yeah, but if you really want to do really nicely, like the lighting, I would say just use 3ds Max, start just like testing the
Correct.
lighting, the angle, everything, and only on the real renovation time.
It also needs to be with a real mock-up as well.
Yeah,
As
you
well.
know,
Yeah.
3D is just an estimation first that you get. Then only when the real renovation, you start to buy the eyeball. Then you're like, you know what, maybe I want it a bit more, not so strong, the walls. Then you change, ask the supplier, can I change, please? Then you come back, change.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we addressed most of the question. The rest of the question are somewhat similar to what we have discussed earlier. Before I think we almost come to an end to the session. Before we end, maybe I wanted to ask a last word from both of you guys. What is your aspirations in terms of your timber designing? I know there are certain trends are coming in. What are your aspirations for your future project, or probably for the audience out there? Some of them are students. What are the aspiration in terms of designing that you want to incorporate to the audience?
To the audience and students, I guess for students, just keep on trial and error. Just keep on testing.
Correct.
So you see what you like, what you don't like,
Mm.
and yeah, I think that's it. Trial and error. I think that's the
Right,
best
trial and
way
error.
to learn everything already, get experience.
Correct. How about you, Mustasha? What is your
Yeah.
aspiration to our audience in terms of designing? What do you think?
My aspiration, I think it has evolved. I think when I start as a young designer, and then now throughout the years, I would say I'm very much more inclined towards the people model approach, people-centric, to understand what do people really want, and to basically integrate that with the vision and dream of the design.
All right, thank you very much. We have come to the end of our today's Timber Talk. On behalf of the Malaysian Timber Council, LTC, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to Joshua Tai and Mustasha Musa for sharing their valuable insight and experience with us. To our online audience, before we close, we kindly invite you to take a moment to complete the feedback pool. Your feedback is very important to us, and we will help to improve our future session. Again, MTC will continue to organize this Timber Talk series and more sharing session, bringing together industry experts to discuss key topics in the timber industry. We truly appreciate your participation today and hope to see you again in the upcoming session. Please continue to check out, and if you haven't already, follow our social media for more news and activities like this. With that, thank you and have a pleasant day.